I'm Alex, 32, the elder sibling, the only boy, the dependable one whenever my parents needed someone to shoulder duties, and the challenging one the moment I refused. I run a decently popular podcast about careers and finances that somehow convinces relatives I'm both a human credit card and an unpaid counselor. My place is a compact one-bedroom with 2 miniature dachshunds, a wall of acoustic foam I'm weirdly proud of, and a burr grinder I baby more than most family members. Everything unfolded in my grandmother's dining room. Where else would it? Satin ribbons tied around every chair, a leaning tower of frosted cupcakes, decades of framed photos of her, arranged like a gallery opening my aunt had orchestrated. My sister Jenna swept in late with her 2 children dressed in identical navy polos. The entire room pivoted toward them like plants chasing sunlight. "Scoot over for the stars of the show," Aunt Bev sang. The future of this bloodline. I'd already been relegated to the children's table because Mom insisted the grown-up table needed symmetry. Grandma flicked a wrist at me. "Alex, you're next to the plug, perfect for charging your little radio thing." "Podcast," I corrected. Dad patted my back like I'd earned a sticker for effort. "At least it keeps him busy." Then the first barb landed, crisp and deliberate. Jenna leaned across the adult table, kissed Grandma's cheek, and announced, "We raced here from their Latin tutor 2 solid hours." She paused for effect. "And that summer program, $8,500 for 4 weeks. Every dollar already paying dividends on their Ivy trajectory." The table erupted in theatrical gasps, the kind reserved for gossip fodder later. Mom chimed in, "Thank goodness for the college nest egg." Grandpa was so forward-thinking. "Our nest egg," Jenna corrected with a dazzling grin. "The trust. Iconic how you used to wave those statements around at holidays, Grandma." Grandma's laugh rang like crystal. "Well, I do enjoy reminding my grandchildren what's waiting for them." I stared at my phone, scrolling fake weather alerts, because that's what I do when rage climbs my throat. Across from me, Uncle Ron asked, "Alex, any new episodes?" "Interviews," I answered. He nodded like I'd confirmed low blood sugar. "Speaking of episodes," Mom added, "someone ought to record one about parents who actually plan ahead for tuition." She beamed around the table, then let her gaze settle on me like I was the cautionary tale. Silverware clinked. Someone cued a nostalgic playlist. The toasts began, Grandma Adores Toasts. I fixated on the glittery banner that read Happy 78th Legend and tried not to picture the folder on my desktop labeled Trust Final. Grandma raised her glass. "To family," she declared, "and to the grandchildren we pour everything into." She let the pause linger, smiled wide. "The ones who truly matter." That line had lived in my head since middle school. "Invest in the ones who make us proud." Mom laughed. "Hear, hear." I slid my chair back. "Grandma," I said as evenly as I could, "about the trust." "Not now, sweetheart," she cooed. "We're celebrating." Jenna smirked. "We can circle back later. You wouldn't follow the legalese anyway." I swallowed hard. "You might be surprised." Money in our house was like oxygen, always there, never enough, and somehow always my fault when it ran low. When I was 12, Grandpa created an education trust for the grandchildren. Back then, that meant me and whoever came later. Grandma loved retelling its origin story. "We sacrifice so our babies can soar," she'd say, eyes locked on me like I was the moral. Then Jenna had kids, and suddenly, grandchildren, acquired an asterisk that excluded me entirely. We grew up 1 paycheck from broke, 2 working parents, 1 inherited house, a savings account Mom referred to as anorexic. Every time I needed cleats or a graphing calculator, the answer was, "Ask Grandpa about the fund." He'd chuckle, change the subject, and nothing moved. The fund wasn't for spending. It was for displaying, like china we never used. By 19, I was cutting audio at 3 a.m. for a sports network that later fired me by text. I pulled espresso, learned compression in cracked headphones, and taught myself enough code to eat. Jenna, 2 years behind me, perfected the art of being the favorite. "Alex is so intense," she'd sigh. Lightening up cost money I didn't have. When her first child arrived, the trust became loud. "Our golden grandbaby," Grandma would coo, tapping a thick envelope at restaurants like she was recommending the specials. "Private preschool, private tutors, private everything. $8,500 for sailing and circuitry." "STEM," she'd say, "best 3 letters in this family." Meanwhile, I was Venmo requesting Dad for my own birthday steak because he'd forgotten his wallet again. I wasn't blameless. I skipped birthdays, bylaid on brunches, dodged photos. I was grinding and embarrassed to be grinding. The podcast limped, then grew, then dipped, then surged. Sponsors trickled in. I learned to read ads without sounding like a hostage. Patreon launched. 1 month I paid off a credit card and sobbed into a dish towel. Yet the family narrative never updated. Alex, your sister's children have needs. Don't be selfish. Your little show is adorable. The first real crack appeared in the family group chat. Jenna posted a photo of her bored-looking kids with their tutor. Caption, 2 hours weekly worth every cent. Ivy pipeline secured. Grandma replied with 10 clapping emojis, and so grateful we established their trust early. I typed, wasn't the trust for all grandchildren? Mom, stop stirring Alex. Grandma, we're discussing actual grandchildren, dear. I stared until the screen went black. Actual grandchildren, got it. I phoned Grandpa. His voice was papery. It was meant to be equitable, he rasped. Educational expenses for both of you. Jenna used it for camp. Camp can be educational. $500 educational, he sighed. Talk to your grandmother. Talking to Grandma meant being labeled dramatic. Don't be crass, Alex. College is expensive. I went to college. I'm still paying interest. Well, you chose audio engineering. As if I'd selected poverty like a major. Then Grandpa passed. 6 months later the trust resurfaced at the reading of the will. One paragraph everyone skimmed except me. It named Jenna and me co-beneficiaries, with a successor trustee clause triggered by mismanagement or breach of fiduciary duty. I underlined mismanagement until the pen tore the paper. I had receipts. Camp invoices Jenna bragged about, ski retreats labeled leadership immersion, tutor packages rebranded cognitive enrichment in Grandma's own handwriting on the memos. I asked the estate attorney whether enrichment qualified. He arched a brow. If it's not post-secondary or directly academic, it's arguably outside the scope. Arguably. If you wish to argue, I did, and I didn't. My show was finally profitable. I was finally sleeping. Did I want war? No. Did I want to keep being erased? Also no. So I studied. I read trust law until the jargon felt native. I learned about fiduciary standards, successor appointments, permissible distributions. I started a folder called Trust Drafts. I asked myself the question I pose to every guest. What would honoring your future self actually look like? It looked like evidence. It looked like polite but persistent emails. It looked like a paper trail no one could narrate away. When I requested statements, Grandma delayed. The printer at the bank is down, dear. Jenna called it toxic. Mom said they were keeping things streamlined. Streamlined meant I paid my own loans, while Jenna's kids conjugated Latin on Grandpa's dime. At one dinner, Aunt Bev raised her glass. To our queen of compounding. Grandma glowed. Then she recounted, in lavish detail, negotiating that camp down from $9,200 to $8,500. Always protect principal, she lectured the table. Protect principal, right. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at a stranger in the mirror until I recognized resolve. I found the clause. I found the procedure. I found a trust officer who spoke in calm phrases like within permissible purpose and successor appointment accepted. The language allowed trustee replacement with consent of both beneficiaries, or upon evidence of misuse, by petition and notice. Consent wasn't coming. Evidence was. Grandma's birthday landed on a Sunday. Everyone wore their Sunday best and their Sunday smiles. I wore the black shirt I saved for live shows and funerals. At 2 o'clock the sheet cake arrived. At 2:05, Aunt Bev toasted the queen of compound interest. At 2:07 Jenna announced the children's end-of-camp recital. The tutor says they're gifted. Gifted sounded like a trademark. Grandma basked. We'll always ensure they have what they need. Mom leaned over. Alex, you didn't forget Grandma's birthday check, did you? Even something modest is fine. She's done so much for you. I laughed, it came out jagged. Don't be ungrateful, Dad warned. Nobody loves a scorekeeper. I set my fork down. About the score, I said quietly. We should probably talk. Jenna rolled her eyes. Here we go. Grandma raised a manicured hand. Not at my party. I turned my phone so only she could read the screen. The bank confirmation, successor trustee accepted my name. Her smile held, then fractured. What on earth is this? Successor clause, I said, voice low but level. Mismanagement triggers it. The bank concurred. Attorney filed notice. Effective Wednesday, I'm trustee now. Jenna barked a laugh. You don't even have kids. You wouldn't know what children need if it bit you. The trust isn't for lifestyle, I said. It's for post-secondary education. Tuition, fees, books. I checked. Grandma shot upright. Her chair screamed across hardwood. You transferred it into your name. Into my trusteeship, I corrected. Different thing. How dare you? Every conversation in the room died like someone yanked the power cord. Dad's fork hit the plate with a clang that echoed. Alex, he said, the tone he used before sermons. Reverse this. Mom's mouth was a blade. After everything we've done for you. Jenna jabbed a finger at me. You're robbing my children. My hands trembled beneath the tablecloth. No one is robbed. The principal is untouched. I'll approve legitimate college costs direct to the school. Camps, tutors, ski retreats labeled enrichment. Those stop, Aunt Bev whispered. Is this even legal? From the far end, the quietest voice in the family, my aunt by marriage who never speaks above a murmur, cut the air clean open. Someone asked why the account statements were kept secret. The temperature plummeted. Grandma blinked rapidly. Pardon me, Aunt Claire folded her napkin with precision. I requested statements when I co-signed the deposit for the kids' Montessori. You told me the trust wasn't public information. That's when I knew proper accounting had stopped. So yes, ask why the statements were hidden. Jenna whirled on her. Claire, not the time. Claire didn't flinch. The time was years ago. Glasses clinked too hard. A child's chair scraped. Someone breathed, oh my God. Grandma's voice returned, splintered. I did what I thought best. Best for whom? I asked. She jabbed a trembling finger. You've always been jealous of them. I glanced at the kids. The oldest was folding his napkin into smaller and smaller squares, shoulders at his ears. They're not the issue. The terms are, Dad rose, give it back. It was never a slush fund, I said. It's a trust. And I'm done being the bad guy for reading the fine print. The group chat detonated like a grenade. Jenna, you humiliated us. The kids are crying. You ruined her birthday. Mom, heartless. Fix it or stay away. Dad, call me. Man to man, I didn't call. I emailed, clean, time-stamped, impossible to twist. Attached the trust instrument with clauses highlighted, the bank officer's letter, a spreadsheet of disallowed expenditures, and a note that I would personally cover the current tutor semester so the children experienced zero disruption while adults recalibrated. Jenna replied in 8 seconds. Keep your dirty money. Claire texted privately, proud of you, kid. First sane move this family has made since 2005. Grandma went silent for 72 hours, then left a voicemail that began with a theatrical sigh and escalated into a soliloquy on loyalty, betrayal, and you'll understand when you have your own. I let it play into empty air, then deleted it. I recorded an episode on boundary budgeting, allocating money and emotional energy when family runs on entitlement. The comments flooded with similar stories. I muted twice to cry, then kept recording. A week later, Dad requested the diner meetup. He slid into the booth, ordered coffee he never touched, and tried warmth first. Your grandmother is devastated. I noticed. He rubbed his temples. She feels disrespected. I followed the document. He attempted a grin. Look, maybe a family compromise, you restore co-trustee status, we all move on. You can even have signatory privileges if it makes you feel included. The way he said included made me grip the table edge. I inhaled. Dad, tuition direct to universities? Yes. Everything else, no. That's the deal, he leaned back. You sound like one of your episodes. I'll take that as a compliment. He switched tactics. She's terrified of looking foolish in front of the church ladies. She lost track of the purpose. That's not the same thing. He stared. I don't know who you are anymore. Good, I said. I finally do. Holidays turned beige and invitation-free. Texts went unanswered for hours. Events became, we figured you'd be busy with your little show. I mailed the 1099-Q forms. I set up direct pay with the university bursar for future terms. Jenna forwarded an unpaid enrichment invoice with the single-word monster. I didn't reply. Then my cousin Theo, perpetual wallflower, anxious thumbnail chewer called. What you did made me ask my mom about my college account. Pause. Turns out there isn't one. Longer pause. I'm not mad at you. I'm starting my own. $50 a month. Hearing you say no gave me permission to ask. We talked compounding for an hour. I sent him my budgeting template. He sent a photo of his beagle wearing sunglasses. Best family call in years. When Jenna's oldest hit freshman tuition, I paid the bursar directly, CC'd everyone, no commentary, just the confirmation and remaining balance. Jenna replied, fine. In our family, fine is a white flag. Grandma remained radioactive. She solicited prayer chains for her wayward grandson. Aunt Bev mailed greeting cards with proverbs about honoring elders. Mom left a grocery store cake on my doorstep frosted with "Family is everything." It sagged in the heat and looked like evidence from a crime scene. I ate one bite, photographed it, tossed the rest. Therapist asked how sleep was. "Like a new person," I said. On air, I told the story of financial gaslighting when enforcing rules gets labeled cruelty. Listeners wrote that they finally told siblings no, in writing, and slept for the first time in years. Grandma eventually texted, "If you're going to play banker, at least come drink tea." I went. She poured chamomile like it could rinse the past, then didn't apologize. Floral wallpaper everywhere, gold frames throwing back a dozen fractured versions of us. "You wounded me deeply," she said. "You wounded me for decades," I answered. "Was it revenge?" "No, it was fairness." She tapped the saucer. "Fairness and love aren't the same thing." "I know," I said. "That's why I picked fairness. Love gets weaponized in this family." She studied me for a long beat. "You're so certain now." "I'm certain about this one thing. Do you think you're better than us?" "I think I'm allowed to be equal." She blinked hard, turned to the window, and started talking about hydrangeas. We discussed soil pH for 10 minutes. I left feeling like I'd walked out of a maze blindfolded yet intact. The birthday scene still loops sometimes, but it doesn't scald anymore. What I remember clearest is Claire's quiet question slicing through the performance. Ask why the statements were hidden. It's the same question I now ask guests every week. What changed? I stopped treating family peace as my full-time job. I stopped auditioning for the role of acceptable grandchild. I stopped confusing fairness with cruelty. I learned a soft, documented no echoes louder than any performative yes. I learned protecting children and protecting boundaries are not mutually exclusive. I paid a tuition bill without a victory dance, and the sky didn't fall. I declined an $8,500 camp and survived the group chat apocalypse. Jenna may never forgive me. That's not catastrophe, it's rebalancing. The lesson isn't win the fight. The lesson is own the responsibility you've already been carrying. For me, that meant reading the document everyone treated like folklore and enforcing it like gospel. It meant speaking plain truth in a room addicted to pretty stories. It meant remembering the only person I have to face in the mirror every morning is me. I'm still Alex. I still overseason my eggs and organize XLR cables by length. I still record Tuesdays, edit Wednesday nights, and treat coffee like a personality trait. Sometimes I wonder how different this would read if Grandma had simply said, "I got carried away." Maybe in 20 years we'd laugh about sailing lessons over Thanksgiving pie. Maybe not. The kids, I'm cheering for them. I hope they master Latin and master naming a boundary when they see one. I hope they never learn to measure love in dollars. When their tuition bills arrive, the money will be there, because that's what the trust was always for. And if they ever ask why the camp money dried up, I'll hand them the highlighted clause and say, "I protected your future even when it made the adults hate me for a while." Last week, a listener wrote, "I finally told my sister I'm not her emergency fund. I put it in writing. I slept 12 hours. I stood in my kitchen holding over-extracted coffee, phone lighting up with quiet thank yous from strangers, and it felt like evidence that doing the hard, right thing almost never looks cinematic in real time. It looks like paperwork. It looks like someone yelling at a birthday party. It looks like letting a sentimental cake melt on a doorstep and walking away. I'm not the family ATM. I'm not the scapegoat. I'm not the villain in someone else's story about real grandchildren. I'm a person with limits. I drew a line that used to be invisible. I'm keeping it there. I won't be exploited. I won't fund the theater. I'll pay what's legitimately owed. I'll document what's said. And I'll keep my hands under the table until the shaking stops. Then I'll hit record and tell the truth again.